Okay.
Okay, so
That
you can pause it or you can stop it and then start again
okay. So
when
let's.
people come. Okay, so I'm going to leave now, but whenever you guys want to do the actual recording, if you let me know, I'd like to be in.
Resume recording. Excellent. Okay. So thank you both for joining. So very quickly, my name is Noye. So I know Mom B because Mom B is my sister's mother-in-law. I've not done so much with the RIBS conference, but she gave me a bit of background as to the conference. I'm based in London, hence I think why some of us are in different time zones, but we're going to try and do this virtually. So, as I mentioned on the WhatsApp, very briefly, the purpose of today is just really twofold. One, to discuss and agree the key messages that we want to get out of the panel. We have 45 minutes for the actual panel, but I'm not expecting that our conversation today lasts longer than 15-20 minutes. But the keys are essentially just to make sure that we agree on, what are the questions we want to answer and how, or what are some of the themes that we want to address during the conversation. I was reading your bios. Mombi kindly sent it to me, and there's a lot of wealth of experience on the panel. So I've come up with some questions just to get us going. As I was reading about the theme that she had for the conference, which is hexagon, balance and equilibrium. And essentially what Mombi said to me was basically what she was trying to achieve from the conference was, exploring how, men and women in our very busy lives and the various roles that we play in our families, in our communities, how do we maintain balance and equilibrium? Is it possible? Is it not? And what are the challenges? But what are the opportunities as well within that? And so I came up with some questions just as I was also Googling and researching, and also just based on my personal experience as well. So I was hoping to run through those and then get your thoughts and ideas. But please, it's more of a discussion. So please do stop me and interrupt and also share your insights as well. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, excellent. So I will attempt to share my screen. So if I just uh going to try and do this just because I'm not too familiar with Zoom. I'm more familiar with Teams, but I will try and so I don't know if you can see my screen and the questions at all.
Yeah, I can see.
Is it very it might be very small because I'm on my phone, but I will try and zoom into the questions.
Yeah, it's very small.
Okay, I'll talk I'll also shout them out. It's just so that in case someone is looking at the recording. So I believe Mrs. Folake couldn't make it. So I just wanted to make sure I share. So I was reading a bit about everybody's bio, very lengthy, very impressive and inspiring bios. All of you are sort of very I guess well achieved, have done amazing things, run businesses, run your own and for organizations, but also doing a lot within your community. So for me, the questions I came up with was just in the context of, doing all of that and just keeping your sanity really, which is something that I personally, obviously, still very early on in my career, but do find a bit of a challenge. So the first question that I had for the panel was, this idea of a pursuit of balance and equilibrium in life. Is it really possible, or is it destined to fail from the start? Is it an ideal, or can it be actually achieved? So that was one of the questions I was going to just really start the conversation on. And I don't know if you agree with starting it very open in that way, or you think there's a different way to approach the start of the conversation. Any thoughts?
It sounds like a good way to jump in, because by the time you ask this question, I mean, if your answer is yes, for instance, you believe so, you will quickly go on to telling us why you believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about it.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Right.
Sorry,
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's me or if it's my network. I couldn't really hear the last speaker.
Okay,
Yes.
my name is Toyin. I think my network has been acting up, so I apologize. There was a time that you both froze, so that gave me an idea that it's not playing well. But can you hear me now, or is it still?
It's still a little bit low. I can get
Oh,
more
low.
voice.
Okay, no, if it is low, let me stop using this. Is it better now?
Oh, much clearer
Oh,
for me.
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, it was the. Sorry, hold on, please. Hold on, Timayo. Timayo, please help me increase the volume. And then take your laptop to you. Okay, can you please speak? Let me hear you.
Hello, can you hear us?
Okay, I can hear you, but it sounds low. I think it's because I was using earphones. Maybe I have to leave and come back.
Okay.
Because you can now hear me, but you sound very faint.
Mr. Tunde, do I sound faint? Just in case it's from me.
Oh,
No,
it is.
loud
No,
and clear.
not anymore. I've corrected what it was. I can
Okay.
hear
Okay.
you loud and clear now.
Okay.
Okay, so I was just going to repeat what I said. I was saying that I thought it was a good way to start because first of all, we don't have a lot of time between four people, 45 minutes.
Yes.
When you ask this kind of question, you can jump right into saying, oh, maybe yes, you think it's possible, and you start telling us why you think it's possible or how you think it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Tunde, you had some thoughts before we.
Yes, I agree with that approach, starting with this, where you say yes and how you think it's possible.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I
I
think
get.
the key is the how.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think what I can do is, obviously I didn't want to write verbatim, but in the panel, and I can tweak it just so it's clear. It's basically, I will ask this question probably to all four, to just say, look, what was their perspective on everyone's perspective on the pursuit of the balance and equilibrium in life? Is it destined to fail? And from the start, and if not, how? How do you think about that, and how do you sort of pursue that? From in reality. So I will steer the conversation in that how way. So that makes sense. Then if we're jumping, so I think for me, question two is really kind of leaning on to question one. So I'll sort of leave that out. Then what I then want to get into, because obviously Mom, and I agree with Mom B, she's keen for us to make the conversation fast paced, very targeted, sticking to the 45 minutes, as you said, with there's four of us, so that we have ample time. That's obviously, the conversations are actually going to be recorded, but then we leave enough time for Q&A for people to kind of pick up from the conversation. And so diving into the remaining questions, I'm quite keen to just sort of select. I know we don't have everybody on the call, but select who answers what versus every single panelist answering every single question, because otherwise we wouldn't get through the questions. So in my mind, that first question is to everybody, and everybody shares their perspective. Then the second thing I then wanted to get into is, okay, then now leaning into your personal experiences and your personal perspectives, what routines and practices help you maintain that balance, and between work and home life. And I think in this scenario, it will be picking out one or two key examples rather than talking through all of it. One or two key examples of what are some of the daily routines, or the hard, um the sort of hard practices you've put in place in your life that helps you in some shape or form maintain balance between work and home life. And so for this question, I don't know if there's, I mean, I know we don't have everybody on the call, whether, Mr. Tunde or Ms. Tony, whether you have a preference as to who answers this between the two of you, or if you want me to run through all the questions and then you can decide once you've heard the context of all the questions, which ones you want to take.
Okay, good idea.
Okay. So that was that question. The other question was just around, taking a step back from, okay, what does work-life balance or life balance and equilibrium mean? Let's then look at what, in reality, what are some of the challenges that we face in the traditional sense, and what are some of the modern expectations as well. So if we think about, we're all Nigerians, we all live in a society that has peculiar cultures and expectations of what what a woman should be doing and what a man should be doing. And so I'm quite keen to sort of lean into, are there any specific challenges within your lives, within your day-to-day that you faced when you're trying to balance tradition and modern expectations? I think this was particularly interesting because I noticed that everybody on the panel is so well achieved, right? And so that probably would have come with some sacrifices, just based on my own personal experience of building a career and trying to build a home and raise children as well. So I'm very keen to sort of lean on your experiences from that sense.
Yeah, so they're both good questions. It's just like you said, run through everything and then we decide who's answering what. Since you can have everyone answer everything. But these two questions, one talks about what helps to get that balance, and what talks about, well, while trying to get that balance, what are the challenges?
Yes.
All sounds good to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, just to add to that, the earlier question, which is what routine and practices help you maintain. So for me, I tend to see slightly beyond just work and home. So when I look at work, home, me, and community.
Yeah.
That's the way I tend to look at it. So how do you then strike a balance across all four? Which is, hey, there's you, there's work, there's home, and of course there's the larger community. And community can be church, it can be where you live, it can be the clubs you belong to, things like that.
Yeah. I think that's a very good take on it, and you might have volunteered yourself there to take that question because I think that's a very good take on it to say. And actually, I would be keen to ask the question in that way still, and you say, actually, as I think about balance, these are the things that I take into consideration. I.e., I'm not just work and home. I'm not just a manager or an employer and a father or husband. I'm also all these various roles within my community, within my church, etc. And this is how, these are the practices I put in place to be that person in those different, to play those different roles that I have. So I'm actually tempted to ask the question the same way, and then you can actually elaborate on it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing that I thought would just be interesting to talk about a little bit is just around, the digital age, right? Because if I think about the age range of the people that go to the RIBS conference is a mix, but recognizing that, and I think this is even relevant, regardless of age, we're just always online in today's world where we're just always plugged in and logged in. And so for me, it can be a hindrance, but it can also be helpful, right? Technology. And so for me, this question is just how does the digital age and technology, does it complicate things? Does it aid our ability to find and maintain balance? That's what I was trying to get out of this question.
Okay. So this question looks like you would say the pros and the cons.
Yeah.
So part of the pros, at least for me, for instance, is if I give an example, when I gave birth to my third child, I had to leave two of my children at home, and I went to the US, and I used to cry every day. But if it was in the time where we had all the FaceTime and all that, it would have been a completely different situation. So in some ways, it does help you. A lot of times I have to travel on my work for work. And one of the ways my husband and I try not to be separate is that once I get back to the hotel, I just call him and we leave the call on. We leave the either WhatsApp call, video call, we leave it on, whether we're speaking to each other or not. We can both be doing something different, but it's on, so I can talk to him whenever I like, so it has that advantage. There's also the disadvantage of, I am always, look at me, I'm in a meeting now. I'm probably at a time that my husband thinks, oh, I can have my wife to myself, or my children think they have me. So there's also the challenge on trying to balance not always being online, not always being, they can be for good causes, but you still have to plan them well to ensure that you have a good, that you're not overdoing it, that you're not permanently online and vulnerable to those around you. So different examples like that of how there are pros, but you need to be careful of the cons as well. And some of the practices that help you, like making sure you have a calendar so you can tell when not to overdo it. Also making sure you have times where you are not on, where you just put your phone away. Otherwise, you would be all over the place. And even your health, it will tell, because it means you are always at meetings at work, always at meetings at home.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's useful. I think also, maybe this question I'll tweak a little bit to also talk about, how do you address that balance? How do you find that balance? Because obviously, as you said, like there's pros and cons, but also you've got to know when it's useful and when it's not useful, or where you've got to put some boundaries in place, right?
Exactly.
I think, yeah, that as well. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay.
This is an interesting one because the way it hits the husband and the wife, it comes at us in different shapes and form, and depending on how involved we are in family. So I'll speak from a man's perspective, for example. I'm pretty hands-on dad. So, and everything I'm trying to describe exactly what we faced. Wife was away, having our child in the US. I was home with the other two, and it was just was a difficult period. Fortunately, at that time, I think there was Skype. I think the worst part was when she went for her master's, and on one of those Skype calls, my son just said, "Look, Mommy, you're not here anyway. I don't want to see you on a computer."
Oh, wow.
And my wife was on the next flight the next day. She was on the flight the next day that, I'm not doing this. So it's a very difficult.
Was she able to complete her program?
She did. So I then, I had to literally look for a quick window to then fly my son out to go spend some time with her. So one has to be sensitive to times when you have to sacrifice. They can be routine, but I think it's more important to be very responsible and committed to building together.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Or the cons and the pros and the cons can almost operate at the same level, and if you're not careful, you lose sight of where the weight should tilt.
Yeah. No, that's very good perspective. And I think that's also a very good example to share as well. Again, with these questions, I'll target it at someone to start, but if there's input, for example, that you've just given, please feel free to chime in, because I think that's a really, really, really good example and additional context that's useful for the panel.
Indeed.
I'm glad she finished up her master's still.
That was I was
She could have also given up.
Exactly. I was at the edge of my chair, like,
So,
you're coming home.
An interesting point to bring out of, and I don't know, maybe it's the moderator that would do that. Out of what the example you just gave, it goes back to the question about traditional roles.
Yes.
What was that, so it is not every man that understands that, let me allow my wife to go do her master's, and I may have to do, certain things that are not called traditional, but I am happy to do them.
Yeah.
This is teamwork. There's time for everything, even if you're even a hands-on dad anyway, so it means you were kind of doing it whichever way. But there are dads that are not so hands-on, but they may have to do that sometimes, just so that the whole essence of us coming together is two is better than one. So we both grow together. We help each other to grow. We help each other to follow our dreams, achieve our purpose. So I think that example is also a good opportunity to bring that teamwork and non-traditional, some people will tell you better go and sit with your husband. And imagine someone said that. Some people will say stop the program completely. So it's interesting how you still managed to complete the program and how you had to tweak a few things.
I agree. I think that's one of the things that, again, I agree with you, Ms. Tony, something that I can pull out, from that example as well, because one of the questions that I had was just around this point about, how do you support each other's dreams and each other's aspirations and careers in marriage, but also then there's another angle on top of that in terms of the expectations of society, and not just society, but family as well. And, how do you create boundaries around that? So, in-laws saying, oh, shouldn't she be back here? Why are you the one taking the lead? Things like that. And how do you protect your union from that, as well? So
I like that topic to be that I think a lot of homes tend to struggle. Not laying that boundaries up front. For me, I had this conversation very early, even before I got married, early in my marriage, with my dad, with my mom. I said, look, there are boundaries. These are the things we want to do. These are the roles I'll play. So don't come and tell me why are you the one changing diapers? So
Okay, so we'll try and bring that out in the discussion as well. And if we don't, I'll prompt us to pull that out, either when we talk about traditional modern expectations or when we talk about maintaining balance more broadly. Okay, all right. Other things, and we've talked about this a little bit. So, how do you keep emotional and physical intimacy alive in marriage amid very busy schedules? So a huge challenge in today's world. So it's just your perspectives, your tips, for the panel in terms of thinking about that.
The number one thing is that most times it would not happen naturally. So you must, I don't like to use the word intentional. I wish I could find another word because it's been overused. But you do have to be intentional, purposeful. Maybe that's a nicer word. If you don't sit down together, I usually like to tell people that, look, a marriage is an organization. There is no organization where you have goals, where you have what you're trying to achieve, that you don't sit down and make plans. You don't sit down and have meetings about, okay, how are we going to achieve this? How are we going to do this? And agree certain, ways. So if you're going to have intimacy, if you're going to have a good, relationship, you're going to have to invest in it, and it has to be purposeful. You have to sit down and say, okay, one of the things we teach in the Eden, the marriage class, is the 3 Ps, where you have to pray together, plan to pray together, plan to play together, PLAY, and plan to actually plan together. That sit down and have meetings. And there was actually research done that families, that's couples who spent at least an hour sitting down to plan a week, that their marriages lasted a lot longer than those who didn't. So the summary is that you have to be purposeful, you have to plan it and be committed to it. You have to invest in it. You have to make sacrifices sometimes for it.
I agree 100%. To be honest, nothing more to add. You captured it so well. The only dimension I'll add to it, myself and my wife we call it projects. Every time there's a project, we're going on a dinner date, so we have a project, we have to get it done.
I love it.
So there's always something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And so there's short-term project, there are long-term projects. So whenever we don't have project, we tend to drift. We tend to drift because there's no central theme pulling us together beyond the bigger things. But we then use the project to bring the bigger tangibles on a day-to-day basis. So we have a project, we need to go on a trip. We have a project, we need to have a dance. We have a project, we need to go swim. We just see that way, and it works, because it's very easy for the pressures of Lagos and living and just ensuring that family is positioned to move to the next level. That can just take over everything you're doing, and you forget that it was both of you when you started. Sooner rather than later, the kids will all, they will leave both of you, and then it's just the two of you, and then you'll be two strangers.
They'll fly out of the nest.
And then it's just the two of you at home.
Okay. All right, good. So it feels like there's a lot to say there. So definitely want to explore, and I think want for others to chime in as well. Time permitting. Okay. And then I had one more kind of key question, and the last one was really more just a bonus. So this one is more relating to in relation to the, I guess, the role modeling for children. Because I noticed that we were all sort of panel parents on the panel. So the question was, in a world that often glorifies a hustle culture, always hustling, always working, always, mixing work with play, and it's all one thing, and you're always working anyway. How do you as parents redefine balance, but also prioritizing your well-being without feeling guilty? And guilt is a word that comes up a lot. I don't know if it's UK specific, but it comes up a lot here. Oh, mom guilt, mom guilt, mom guilt. I don't really hear it from my friends in Nigeria, but it's definitely a thing here. You know, so it was just one to explore with you guys as well, in terms of that role modeling with children, and you know, in the context of today's world, where there's a focus on always working, always achieving, and not just taking a break to breathe.
I wanted him to speak first. Tunde.
Okay, I'm not sure how to come at this question, to be honest. What I know has worked. I have a young adult and 2 teenagers, and um, over the last 23, 24 years, it's been, first of all, you have to work. You know, made that very clear that look, there's no free lunch anywhere. You've been given the platform. You need to raise that platform to another level and ensure that you set the tone for the next generation. So there's that part. Now, whilst pushing that mindset, there's also the mindset of bucket list of things that you need to do. I like to travel. I like to see places. So regardless of how tough things are, I would always find time. And I noticed that my daughter has picked up on that way faster and more aggressive than I. Now I'm scrambling to reel her back. But being able to let them understand that life, should I say, you work and play, you work hard and play harder. That's the way I've been able to push it with my kids so far. Just setting some baseline expectations, really. But I don't know if I'm answering it, because I'm kind of struggling with the question, to be honest. Yeah.
I think you're kind of answering it already. Consider the fact that she spoke about mom guilt and all that. So there's that place of ensuring. First of all, one of the things that we try to make the children understand is that, yes, we take care of them. Yes, we'll make sacrifices, but there's also us. There's my husband and I. So very happily, we'll leave them at home and say, we're going on a date. Bye. Sometimes we travel alone. That's just my husband and I. So you make it clear. One of the ways that you had answered the way after this, the question actually was when you broke down what work-life balance means. There is the me part. So you still have to take care of yourself. You still have to do. Let me use myself as an example. A lot of times, many times, I wouldn't buy anything. I wouldn't do anything for myself because I would calculate what that money could do. I remember in the earlier days to buy diapers, to buy this, to buy, things for the children or school fees, Yeah. And I found out that, yes, there's a place for that, but you must ensure that you also take care of yourself. So once again, you have to be purposeful. You have to make sure that you're not taking care of everybody and then not taking care of yourself. You have to understand that, like Mr. Tunde says, that there is a me in the whole work-life balance. There's taking care of yourself. There's also to make having fun. We would always put things, when my children were younger, I would do everything, put things together to make sure they have fun, make sure they travel or they do this. And what
Mrs. Tonya, we lost you.
About us? What about my husband and I? What about not to forget? Look, if God at once, there's time for everything. That's part of, for me, the number one, the word of God for balance. Even balance, God created with balance. He He created day 1, he rested. Day 2, day 3, and then finally he took some rest. My younger sister, for instance, she actually observes the Sabbath. On Saturdays, she does not agree to any meetings. She does not agree to go anywhere. She rests at home. She spends time with God and with her family. So it is that consciousness that you must take care of yourself. So please don't feel guilty. You should actually feel guilty if you're not taking care of yourself. You must take care of yourself as well. I had my son, my firstborn, on the same day as my birthday. So we both have the same birthdays. So ever since he's 18 now, and ever since I had him, I practically didn't have a birthday. I would always plan his birthday, and a lot of times forget that I even had my birthday. So I turned 50 recently, and I put everything into normally.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I had a party, something I would not do normally. I had a Thanksgiving service. I did exactly what I would like to do. And I felt good. I did not feel guilty. Also because I had come to learn that, look, yes, it is good to make sacrifices for your family, but you need to take care of yourself as well. Love others as you love yourself. Don't forget me in the whole balance. Yeah, that's how I would.
That's very helpful. So I think I'll probably redefine that question a little bit so that it's focused on self-care. So how do you prioritize self-care? And tweak it a little bit to focus on that. So, and then the final question was, we don't need to talk about it, so you can go away and have a think about it and come back on the day and surprise us with your answer. It's just more, what advice you would give to your newlywed self. One tip about balance. What would that tip be? And it has to be one thing, not a paragraph. It has to be one thing. Okay, I'm conscious of time. I don't want to keep you for too long. Is there anything that we haven't covered? Any themes that you think that, okay, this is a huge miss in this? Obviously, we didn't. One thing I was thinking about is, I know we talked a little bit about spirituality, but we didn't have a specific question about faith in here. So that was the only thing that I picked up just in the conversation. So I could go away and think about that. But is there anything else that you guys think that we've missed out, or anything we should de-emphasize equally?
Well, I like everything you've brought up. I didn't even think of what you just said, and it's a good one actually. And let me just quickly say, I'll make it very fast. If we can bring out the difference between ministry and, am I saying it the right way? I'm just trying to say, when they say put God first, it doesn't necessarily mean put God's church work first. If we can bring that out, anything that can help us bring that out would be good to really understand what that means. They putting God first. Yeah. But what I wanted to mention was, I think it might still be useful if you tell us the specific questions. Of course, we can chime in every here now and then. And also, we need a bit of timing. If we look at how many questions do we have, how many minutes do we have, that tells us about how many minutes we have per question.
No, I think I wanted this context first. I mean, I already started to label things. So, the first question will be for everybody. I have to come back on WhatsApp.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, but the first question will be on for everybody.
Okay.
The balancing traditional modern roles. I was thinking maybe Mrs. Falake. Obviously she's not on here. And then the digital aid one, Mrs. Tony, I liked your answer. Obviously, we talked about Mr. Tunde coming in and giving his sort of specific examples as well.
Okay.
And then, there's a little bit in here around, the piece around the traditional roles, the boundaries from in-laws, setting expectations. So I need to, because it's only half of us on the call, I need to kind of
I know.
retweak that. But I got the key themes, emotional and physical intimacy. So I really liked some of the examples that you both gave, but I don't want to give you both all the questions. So I probably need to reshuffle it a little bit. And then it might be that one or two questions drop off if I feel like it's taking too long. But I think ultimately sometimes it feels like a lot of questions, but if people are able to answer quite quickly, you can probably get through a lot of questions quite because what you don't want as well is it's only 5 questions and people end up answering it quickly, and then you have extra time. So what I'll probably do is, these are the key things that we really want to call out. And then, so something like the digital age, could be a bonus question if we have time. For example, what routines and practices do we have that might come through anyway in the conversation? So again, I might drop that question so I can add the question about faith, for example. So let me take it away and play around with it, and then I can come back with some final questions and then highlight which ones I think people can take. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Good.
And then I think maybe just to release you guys, what I'll do is on the chat, we just need to find a time to record the actual panel discussion. But I'll put it on the chat since not everybody's on the call. We're aiming for next week. So just to flag it to you both, I think for me in particular, because the following week I'm in Geneva for work, actually Monday through to Friday. So it's going to be difficult to step away and record. So I was hoping for next
May I ask a
week, but
question?
yes.
Is the recording in person?
So I believe it's virtual on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So the recording will be virtual on Zoom, but the Q&A on the day will be us, either you guys in person in Nigeria, and then obviously I'm here in the UK, so I'll just be joining in virtually, but Mombi will obviously be there to moderate the Q&A piece.
Okay. Just to note that I will be in the US next week as well.
Okay, so time zones.
Yeah, time zones.
Okay.
Just 2 points for me. Flying back from the US on Tuesday.
Okay. Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah. So anytime from Wednesday works.
From Wednesday, okay.
Yeah.
Fine.
Then I also wanted to just go back very briefly. I think Tony's points helped me understand the last question a bit. I think the question around role modeling is critical because, people tend to learn by seeing, when they see what others are doing. So I think that question would still be relevant and critical as part of the conversation, just to say, hey, what do your kids see? What do you do that demonstrates that you actually balance these things? There's you, there's home, there's work. Do your kids just see you as work and nothing else?
Okay.
Or do they see you as community?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, perfect. Thank you both. Thank you so much for your time and your evening. I'll let you get back to being all the wonderful things that you are. So to others. So really lovely to meet you both virtually. And so I'll come back with over the weekend. Tomorrow's Friday now, yes. So probably by Saturday with a tweak of the questions and then hopefully a poll to agree a recording date and time. I think it sounds like the evening will probably be best anyway, but I don't know how that will work with Miss Folake because she's in South Africa. So we'll just need to figure that out and go from there.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you. You too.
Speak
Bye-bye.
soon.
Take care now.
Let me just stop recording. Amen.